We're going to get started. First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming, both here at Luther College in Decorah and online on Zoom. Thanks for logging in and following along with us. My name is Jake Kundert. I'm the local foods associate for the Iowa Valley RC&D, and we're here partnering with the Northeast Iowa RC&D to present the marketing workshop for farmers market managers. At the Iowa Valley RC&D and at Northeast Iowa RC&D, we do a lot of community food system work. And so working with farmers markets fits right into that. And we saw a need to provide more resources and trainings like this to farmers market managers in Iowa. And that's kind of what's fitting into this project that we're working on right now. So today we're having a marketing workshop. We are lucky to have Josh Dansdill from the Northeast Iowa RC&D and Ash Bruxvoort from Women Food and Agriculture Network to talk to us about marketing. So I think Josh is going to start us.
Like Jake said, my name is Josh Dansdill. I work for Northeast Iowa RC&D as a grant specialist and a small business development planner. I assist with regional farmers markets across Northeast Iowa. We have been pleasured to work with the farmers markets in Northeast Iowa for a few years now. When working with the farmers markets, we noticed that there was a need for some materials for farmers market managers across our region and some resources for them to kind of assist with their day-to-day operations with running a market. So we came up with the idea of developing the Iowa Farmers Market Manager Toolkit. The toolkit will be comprised of at least 12 vendor handouts. These handouts will be a one-page front-back handout that the market managers can hand out to interested vendors at the market to answer specific questions about licensing or what they can sell, what they can't sell, what kind of food regulations are on certain items, tips and tricks for markets to advertise and for vendors to advertise their products, kind of some ideas to maximize their stand, and a whole array of options, which those will be rolling out here in the next year or two. So keep your eyes open for those. Another component of the toolkit will be one of these training series. So we are doing a number of in-person and online, and then we're going to take these online presentations and then save them so they're archived online for people to view at a later date whenever the questions may arise that the topic may interest them. And then the third and final component of the toolkit will be a market manager manual. And this manual will be comprised of everything that market managers will need to manage the markets. We know that market managers sometimes have a turnover, and this will be able to help ease some of the struggles there. Like Jake alluded to, this is a partnership for this project that we are doing between Iowa Valley and Northeast Iowa RC&D. This is kind of the regions that we generally serve for a lot of our projects, but this one is a statewide project. What I'm going to be talking to you about today is from our 2014 Farmers Market Promotion Program grant that we got from the United States Department of Agriculture back in 2014. For this grant, we really focused on marketing the market. So what I'll be talking about is how to market your market. And I'll walk you through some of the branding exercises that we did. I'll share who and what we did in these sessions, kind of share how that process worked, and then I'll show some of our final examples that kind of came out of this planning process. The first thing that we did is we like to collaborate with a lot of different entities. So we try to think about who was involved at the markets now. So you have vendors that are at the market. So these are farmers, bakers, producers, people who do crafts. We also have the market themselves represented. And then we try to draw in a lot of different tourism folks and economic development folks that already maybe work with the market, but kind of see it as something that they have to do. And now we try to view it as something that could really bring a draw to their town and an opportunity to create these business incubators in their town with such a low overhead cost. So what we did is we invited a wide range of people in, and we came and we all sat down and we really started to think seriously about what the brand is of a farmer's market. So when you think of farmer's market, like what's the first word that pops into your mind? Just let everybody think about it. Organic. Vegetables. So it's a place, well, we came up with, it's a place at its heart where people who produce the things come to sell the things that they have either made or produced. So it's that real authentic connection between the buyer and the seller. And when we were branding this, we're like, if this is what the market is, we all have to agree on one thing. And if that is, if you sell at the market, you've either produced it, grown it, now you're trying to sell it. So at least the person, when they come to the market, they have that trust and feeling that when they go to the market, person I'm talking to is the person that made this good or item that I am buying at the market. So like, okay, so now we know what we're trying to sell. And everybody wants to have their markets. They're all a little different because they're all very unique, and they all should be very unique. Every town is a little different, so everybody's markets will be a little different as well. So we didn't want to take away from the uniqueness. We wanted everybody to kind of grasp around this one idea and then try to focus now on our branding of like, so this is what it is. And branding, we had to step back to like, what is branding? Branding is the perceived perception of your goods or your organization. So it's not what you think, it's what everybody else thinks about what you are doing. How the market looks, how it's presented, how your vendors look, how it's, every single bit of advertising that gets put out there, it all is going to reinforce your brand through your marketing. But understanding your brand at its core was important for us to think about right away. And when doing this work, we knew we wanted to spend a little bit of time making sure we did it right the first time. So we spent a couple months and we had 3 meetings where we talked through a lot of different ideas and what branding was, what kind of themes we wanted to implement, what kind of colors we wanted to have, what kind of ideas we needed to reinforce through our marketing materials. And when we did this, the reason we wanted to make sure we did it right the first time was because we wanted to be consistent throughout the whole time. We didn't want to have to change here and there. So now that we had our meetings, we came together and we talked and we presented 3 different ideas of what our branding materials would look like. So we had different colors with different fonts, with different themes of wood to a more fairy tale-ish theme that was real whimsical and real kind of happy and fun, and trying to invoke like a feeling that people would want to be there. It's welcoming, and that people would want to be energetic in buying things as well. So when we went through it, we kind of talked about those images that we would need to use throughout our marketing campaign. So we were lucky enough in this grant, we had Jessica Rilling Photography. So Jessica came up and she did 15 photo shoots. And through that project, we decided where she should be for these photo shoots. So we said we should do 5 at the farmer's market. We should do 5 with different producers. We should do 5 with at the market, 5 different producers. And then we also wanted to focus on some prepared food. So as you can see in this shot here that we made a soup day. So if anybody's ever tried to do food photography, it's really hard. And then you have to sit there and look at this beautiful food all day and not eat it. But so we did a soup day, and we had another day that we did a picnic in the park. And then we did another day with prepared breakfast foods. And we tried to capture all these things, and we actually used local ingredients in our products. So we were highlighting what we were actually selling. So that was important to us to be authentic and true to what we were. And then we went to different producers and not just vegetable producers. We went to a shrimp farm. We went to a potter. And they were all great shots, and we tried to capture their story and then tell their story as we were there and what they were doing. And we got to see some amazing places and see some amazing things. And at the end, we ended up with 15 great photo shoots, and all these photos were then going to be utilized to help build this brand and be implemented through this marketing that we were doing. So one of the things that we checked off the list right away was some posters. So every farmer's market got a poster, and the poster is with this nice, we tried to do an authentic farm, like people, when they talked about that, like a wood frame came out of their minds. It's like, well, we utilize some wood theme. And we can see here in the middle one, someone's like, when they use 2 hands, it's like somebody is actually giving you something, and it's not like one hand or somebody shoving you into something. So I believe it's a Mexican cucumber, is what it's called. Someone was asking what that was in the middle. And I mean, it looks like he's just carrying all these giant cucumbers. So it looks like a giant man.
Cream cheese.
Yeah. And so when shooting on the farms and at the farmers markets, weather was a big concern. So keeping a close eye on the weather, and sunny days, surprisingly, are not the greatest photo shoot days. So finding those days with a slight overcast with no rain and no extreme heat were a challenge. But in the end, when you can get some nice shots, we can see here at Independence, their location is right at this giant mill, right on the Waspinican. So it's very iconic and it's very noticeable for where the market is and very easily identified for that market. And then these posters, we wanted to make sure that people knew when and where their markets were. So those were the name, when, and where it was were the only things highlighted on the posters, besides the natural beauty of whatever was being sold or where it was. Along with that, then we used a lot of these same consistent images. So just if there's one thing you take away from me today, it's just being consistent with what your marketing is. Once you have it, just kind of keep rolling with it and just keep using it. And here we can see we had our ads in some of the magazines. We used a lot of the ads in print for newspapers. We, again, just used the photos that we grabbed from another one was the seasonal produce, that's right. So we captured whatever was available in the season, and we did 3 of those. We did one in the spring, one in the middle of the season, and then one towards the fall to capture the different seasons of the farmer's market. And through this, then we also wanted to try to make a billboard. And everybody knows when you're driving 55 miles an hour down the highway that people don't have a lot of time to read. So we try to make it short and sweet and to the point and direct people to a website that then would tell them more about the market. We wanted to kind of invoke the feeling that they would be hungry or that they should want some of the things as they're driving down the road. So we ended up using sweet corn, and you can see the tomato with the basils. And then there are meat vendors as well. So we didn't want to exclude them out there. And through this process, we were able to work with the tourism office and economic development folks, and they do billboards all the time. So that was a great way for them to utilize their knowledge for us. As a farmer's market, I don't know a lot of farmer's markets that have billboards. So they were saying the yellow and the reds are what people really noticed when they were driving down the roads, which the day that we put ours up happened to be somebody else had a giant yellow suit next to our person. So, and they were using yellow as well. And these billboards, we placed these billboards at the ends of our counties that we were representing. So we had one right at the Minnesota border, and then we had one towards Independence area, which is the 7-county region for Northeast Iowa. So as they were entering Northeast Iowa, they could see that there are farmers markets and they should think about attending them during their visit. Something we also tried to capitalize on was that people eat at the farmers market, the people shop at the farmers market, and then that the vendors, they sell at the farmers market. So this is their business. So we focused and had a highlight of people who shop at the farmers market. Why do they shop at the farmers market? What were they looking to buy at the farmers market? What did they make when they went home from the farmers market? And we took that and we made recipes from those and highlighted those in the same design and illustration that we did for all the other farmers market materials that we developed. And we also highlighted a couple vendors from the region that actually sell at the farmers market, highlighting why they sell, what they sell, and why they think the market is so special. So trying to develop that authentic connection between them and the seller. For farmers markets too, you got to get people there, and people have to know it's a farmers market. So we ended up getting 24 different banners, or the same banner, and everyone that has a banner puts it up on the day the market is open. So to inform everyone that the farmers market is open and that you can stop. And this was an idea from one of the market managers over by Marquette. And she said that people are driving by really fast on the road. So how can she help draw that attention? And she ended up coming up with this idea and found a great price for us to get even more than we had originally planned. And that partnership there helped us out tremendously in getting more than we expected. And then this banner is probably 12 to 15 feet tall, so it really flaps in the wind, and it's bright and red and yellow, so people will see it and know what is going on. We developed a TV ad as well. And this 30-second clip was another partnership that we had with one of those collaborators from the beginning. They had a partnership with KWWL, and they were going to broadcast ours right around the time when families would be sitting down to eat, which was the other component that people really wanted to focus on for people coming to the market, to draw in these people that were maybe had just had a new child and are like, well, I could eat Doritos all my life, but I don't want my child to be eating Doritos from day one. So they're really starting to focus on some healthy eating habits, maybe making food from scratch, maybe going to the farmer's market for the first time. So by putting the ad on, during the time when they would be making dinner, and this would get in their mind of farmers market season. We put this ad on right in the middle of farmers market season, so there's lots of produce, lots of vendors, everything was hustling and bustling, and it highlighted a lot of the local photographs that Jessica had taken, a variety of different farms and producers. We then had an intern that summer who went to Luther, and a thank you to Luther College for letting us use their space. He's a musician, and he actually sang a jingle. And then this jingle.
Do you live in or near Chester, Cresco, Decorah, Edgewood, Elgin, Elkader, Fayette, Fredericksburg, Garnavillo, Guttenberg, Harpers Ferry, Independence, Lansing, Lime Springs, Marquette, McGregor, Monona, Nashua, New Hampton, Olwine, Protivin, Riceville, Strawberry Point, Volga City, Waukon, or West Union? Then you have a great opportunity to visit your local farmers market. Offering local products at great prices, farmers markets carry healthy, homegrown produce straight from your next-door neighbors. To look for your local farmers market, go to Northeast Iowa FarmersMarket.org.
That he did. I will not try to imitate. He was much better than what I could ever do. He said this radio ad as fast as he could, and I could hear him in there. And there's a couple towns that he had trouble with, and he figured it out, and he got faster and faster, so he said it as fast as he could. And then he sang his song at the end with the jingle for Northeast Iowa Farmers Markets. Again, just kind of help drive the point home of there's a resource here. You can use it to find all the farmers markets wherever you are. And his jingle ad was very catchy towards the end, and Parker did a great job, so shout out to Parker. And that is what we found for those are the marketing avenues that we took for the farmers market promotion grant. And we saw that, it really depends on a lot of different factors for implementing a lot of these different things. I mean, it's all depending on money, and we really noticed that the wayfinding signage and some of the other signage that was a little lower hanging fruit was just great to take right away. And some of the larger ones like the billboards and the TV ads, they're great. They're not as easy as low hanging fruit as some of the other ones. So I always start at the bottom, make sure you have your wayfinding, make sure people can find you, make sure you have some posters. And then once you get the opportunity, then start branching out into some of these other avenues and really experimenting. And then we didn't do as much with the online, which I'm sure you might hear about today. So, and then I think we will save some questions for the end.
Online marketing.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Well, it was really interesting to hear all about the more traditional marketing approaches that you all took with the farmers markets. That's something that is not as much my personal strength, but yeah, so a little bit about me and why am I standing in front of the room talking to you. My name's Ash Bruxvoort. I work for Women Food and Agriculture Network, so that's where I'm at now. But how did I end up kind of with this strange focus on working with sustainable agriculture, farms, and marketing? I grew up on a conventional corn and soybean farm in central Iowa, and that's actually a picture of my dad over there. And then I went to school for English and nonprofit management and philanthropy communication. And my focus was in doing marketing for environmental nonprofits. And then through that, I actually ended up working on some vegetable farms. I worked on a farm in Iowa, I worked on a farm in California, I worked on a farm in New York, and then through a series of events, ended up back in Iowa and started working for the Iowa Food Cooperative in Des Moines, which is kind of an online farmers market. Is my sound not on?
No,
oh, okay.
Go on, I just
all right, cool. Yeah, and so I did that for about 1.5 years, and I also worked for Iowa State University Extension and Outreach as the Central Iowa Local Foods Coordinator for about 1 year. And in that position developed this presentation, which is kind of called Online Marketing for Farm and Food Businesses. So I'm gonna try to kind of cater it towards what farmers market managers might do with online marketing. So that's kind of how I ended up working at WFAN and just doing this work in general. So one concept that I want to talk about just to kind of ground our conversation is this idea of the growth hacking funnel. So I think that a lot of us who use the internet, or maybe you manage a Facebook page for your farm, or maybe you have one for your farmer's market, or you don't understand how it works at all. Kind of a basic concept is this idea that you might have, 20,000 people or 2,000 or 200 people come and visit your website. And then through that process, you want to be able to convert. You're not going to get all of those people interested in like whatever it is that you have to sell. So this is true whether you're selling something for your own personal farm or trying to get people to come to a farmer's market. Not everybody is going to be interested. So there's tipping points here where you get people to convert, to want to be part of whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And then there's tipping points down here where we're actually retaining customers over a period of time. So part of what we can use online marketing and digital tools to do is to help us understand where these tipping points are, where we're losing people, and how we can kind of pivot to try to keep them, or maybe decide that that's not an audience that's like ideal for us. So today, kind of what I'm going to focus on is just this idea that every market's approach is going to be different. Some of you might have like 25 people coming to a farmer's market, and some of you might have hundreds of people coming to a farmer's market. So the audience you're going to reach is a little bit different. Obviously, communities and a farmer's market is like a deep part of a community often. So what different communities are going to respond to is going to be different. By the end of this, I want you to kind of have a good understanding of who your audience is, what are the unique qualities of the market that you're trying to market, and then how to develop some marketing strategies that are like approachable for you to do with online marketing. And we're going to talk quickly about the 3 different kinds of online marketing, which are search engine marketing, content marketing, and then just general social media marketing. So the first thing that I always like to talk about is audience. And Josh kind of got into this with this idea of branding. So audience is really important. It's the best place to start from my point of view, because if you don't know who you're talking to, then you don't know how to communicate to them effectively. So the way that we're going to talk to this woman, who's maybe like a grandmother who's coming to the market with her grandkids to like get cookies and Dutch letters and things like that, you're not maybe going to communicate, or the things that are going to get her to the market are not necessarily the same thing that's going to get like this woman who is a single mom or a new mom, and like she might have different concerns than what she does. And then that's also going to be different from like what you're communicating to maybe some of your producers about why they should be selling at your market. So what you can do with online marketing is kind of really break up your audience into different segments and figure out what works best to communicate to those individual segments. And I'm going to go back on that real quick. So one thing that I really like to do when I'm thinking about audience is to really identify who are the different audiences I'm trying to talk to, and maybe just identify 3 to 4 audiences that you think are like your key market attendees. So for me, that could be like young families, senior citizens. You could have producers as part of that audience. So, and then I would take those different audiences and I would just ask myself some questions about those people. What is it that they're wanting to do when they come to the market? What kind of experience are they wanting to have? What kinds of products are they most likely to purchase? Are we providing the appropriate products to pull in the audiences that we're trying to reach in our community? Is there a part of our community that like obviously isn't coming to the market, and can we figure out why that is? And is there a way that we can market something specifically to them to try to pull them in? You know, people go to farmers markets for lots of different reasons. From a producer perspective, obviously we want people to come and purchase our products. From an attendee perspective, farmers markets are often, I think we all know, seen as an entertainment opportunity, which isn't necessarily what we want. But it is a way that we can sometimes bring people in. So that's something that you just always kind of want to be aware of. You don't want it to be like all about the entertainment, because then that's not going to be good messaging for your producers that you're trying to get to come and sell at the market either. But you also want to have a good flow of traffic so that they're actually like making it worth their time. Constant struggle. So then we talked about this idea of branding, and I think that Josh did a good kind of overview of it. The way that I think about branding is like when somebody sees your market brand, you want them to feel at home. You want them to know that like this is the Decorah Farmers Market. That's their branding. I know if I see like that font and these colors, that's what that communication is going to be about. Often with farmers markets, what I'll see is like lots of scattered kind of things. So maybe we're using this font here and we're using this font here, and sometimes we use yellow and sometimes we use blue. Consistency, even if you think like it's okay to like make decisions and change, but I would say like releasing a brand at the beginning of the farmers market season and then as much as you can sticking to that throughout the year is just going to help you with that recognition. And I really think that like at home in your brand is a good phrase because you want it to feel like welcoming, warm, draw people's attention in. So when I worked at the Iowa Food Cooperative, the colors that we used were orange, green, and white. And part of the logo was just this circle. So then I'm not an amazing graphic designer, but I know that that orange circle is something that people will recognize. So I just took that very basic, simple thing. Often when we think about branding, we think that it has to be this like amazing, crazy, you know, thing that a designer did. And obviously that's great if you have the resources to do that. But if you don't, it can be something as simple as an orange circle with like a small gradient or even not. So yeah, just building that consistency, I think is really important across all of the things that you're doing. And even more so maybe in online marketing than it is in like out in the public. Traditional marketing is what we often talk about it. So here's a question that I like to ask, which is where do you find information about industry trends about food or about like local food? Groceries. Does anybody have any ideas of where they would find information about that? I have some examples here that you can use if you want to cheat. Yeah.
Well, we don't have, I'm from Harper's Ferry, my wife and I, we don't have a store in town. We've got gas stations that sell a few things. But 3/4 of our population comes in on Friday night. And they come from Cedar Rapids, Waterloo, Des Moines.
Mm-hmm.
All over. And so they are, on average, always looking for prepared foods.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cookies, and cakes, and breads.
Mm-hmm.
We have some people that will get a line from one end of from where they start to buy all the way out to the road, which is like half a block.
Mm-hmm.
And those people are just waiting for the Amish to sell the baked goods.
Mm-hmm. So these are people that are coming in and they're kind of like, they're hungry, they've been traveling, they're looking for something sweet to kind of get them through the rest of their evening.
Well,
and
they're buying food for the weekend.
they're buying food for the weekend,
They
yeah.
don't want to cook.
And they don't want to cook,
They
okay.
want to go out on the boat and fish, they want to come home, they want those candy and cakes and cookies, fresh vegetables. They
Yeah.
wanna cook.
Okay, so this is a really good example of audience, and this is an audience that like you already have a really good sense of like they don't want to cook. And so when I think about that, you know, I think about something like Hy-Vee has their own magazine, so it's called Seasons, and what they do is they just have recipes. Obviously what they're catering to there is different kinds of women. And different parts of the magazine are catering towards different kinds of women. So in your example, you might be thinking about like what signage can we use effectively to communicate to those people that we have products that are like not for cooking. You know, we have things that are ready-made. If you're thinking about it from an online marketing perspective, you might be thinking about like, so for your example, people are coming from out of town.
Right.
So one thing that, you know, people who are traveling around the state of Iowa or interested in traveling to smaller towns, often, especially if they're from urban communities, one of the things that they will use is Instagram. And they will use a hashtag on Instagram like Travel Iowa, hashtag Travel Iowa. And I'll get a little bit more in depth into what hashtags are later. But that could be an example where like even before they're getting into town, you might want to be taking advantage of a hashtag on Instagram to communicate to them like as they're coming in, that these products are available in these different places. You might want to have pictures of them so that like when they're like, maybe somebody's driving and the other person is in the passenger seat and they're like, oh, what should we do when we get there? Like, let's look at this Instagram account. And then you have all of these things. So then they're thinking about the cookies on the way and their mouths are watering and they just can't wait to get them once they get in because you've already like set them up. So what I'm getting at here is this idea that like you want to find your audiences where they're at. You don't want to be like necessarily trying to get them to come to you. You want to be going to them and saying, I see that you're here. I think you might be interested in what I have to sell. And that's how you're going to create your pipeline. We tend to like make a lot of work for ourselves sometimes by not finding people where they already are and just by like trying to create something that we think is going to be what they want. And then by interacting with like these places where people might actually be looking for information, we can actually learn more about what they want as our audience. So I'll just point out some of the other things that I think might be relevant for folks who are managing farmers markets or doing local food promotion work. Food Tech Connect is one that I always have been interested in. It's an online newsletter and it's all about food and technology businesses. So they cover things from like worker rights to Amazon just bought Whole Foods and this is how that's going down. So it's like just a good way to kind of be on top of what industry trends are happening across the country, because for us in Iowa especially, like we know that that's what's going to be coming down a few years from now, so we can kind of like get ahead on that. And then obviously like looking to other markets, looking to other grocers that sell natural food products or baked goods and things like that, and seeing how they're marketing their products is something else that you might want to look at when you're talking about like specific producers that are selling at your market, or just different aspects that make, why would somebody go to the farmer's market instead of just like going to the co-op or something like that.
I've often just flat out Googled the farmers markets in some of the bigger cities around us.
Yep.
And then go to their websites, check out their images and pictures when I'm trying to get ideas of different ways to create my booth.
Yeah, totally.
Pinterest is helpful with that too if you just need some ideas, but you know, it's a great way to find out what are, because a lot of times we get tourism from these large areas.
Mm-hmm.
So what are they comfortable with? And you want it to be like, make it like home.
Yes.
What are they seeing and feeling comfortable with seeing? And at the same token, how can you tweak that so it's still a unique experience?
Yes, exactly. And I think that you're really like playing right into this voice thing too. And I'm going to talk a little bit about just search engines and how we can use them to help us with online marketing too. But I think that that's spot on. Anytime you're doing like running a market, running a business, you always want to look and see what other people in your region or even outside of your region are doing. I think that you're spot on with like looking at where is my audience coming from, what are they used to, and like how can I kind of emulate that experience. But then like what is it that makes this market different, or what is it that makes it unique? Like maybe this small town experience is going to be different, but there's still going to be value to it. So I think that that does kind of play into this idea of voice. And with online communication, I think having a consistent voice is really important. It kind of is part of your brand. You want to have like people feel when they see this text that it's coming from kind of the same place over and over again. And so I have some different examples. Some of them might be familiar to you and some of them might not be, but these are people that I think of as like having really strong voices. So one of them is this character Daria, who was on this like 90s cartoon, and she has like a very monotone voice and is very serious and cynical about everything. And if you know her, like you can totally picture it, or you can hear her talking in your head. Oprah Winfrey has like these gestures that she does with her hands when you watch her do interviews. She's very consistent over time and has been throughout her career as a journalist and as a talk show host, has a very strong voice. This thing she does all the time when she's like really making a point. So that's kind of like part of her brand. Jerry Seinfeld is kind of like a lovable loser, like just thinking about like what's basic humor. So that's kind of part of his voice. In the last presidential election, we obviously saw lots of strong voices with lots of different opinions. And then I also have Frida Kahlo up here just because as a reminder to us that imagery is also part of voice. And the way that we present images online is one of the ways that people will actually first interpret our voice. So that might be like a picture with some text on it and doing some consistent, like maybe you have a picture with just a couple words of like sweet corn or like whatever, and just consistently using similar styles of images, similar styles of text, similar placement. And so that can be a way that voice actually comes across on online more so than in like what we think of as paragraph text or copy. All right, so search marketing is one of the top ways that people will find you. And our goal here is to be found. So if I'm sure everyone who's listening online and in the room has wanted to make a purchase or go on a trip or buy a car, buy a pair of pants or whatever. And so the first thing that we often do is get on Google and search for it. And we might have different things that will pop up. We might go to Amazon and check different prices. We might go to the store in town and see if we can get it for a better price or something that's more fits what we want. So often with farmers markets or small businesses, if somebody types it in, especially if it's something that's just getting started, you like can't find what time it is, or you can't find the address, or like maybe you can find like the dates from last year, but you can't find the dates from this year. And so what we're talking about here is this idea of authenticity. You just want people to know that you actually exist. So you want to have this online in a public place. So whether that's on a Facebook pages are searchable, they show up in Google, or if this is on a website, but you want to have it probably in one of those two places. Or if it's at like your local municipal government's website or something like that, but you want it to be able to like be found easily. This content is not as much of a thing for all of you talking about farmers markets necessarily, but one of the things that Google search engine will look at when they're like scrubbing or looking at a website is how much of the content is original content and how much of the content is curated content. And they actually want you to have a mix of both in order to get like a higher search engine ranking. And then activity. So like, are you actively posting on a Facebook page? Are you actively posting on a website? For a farmer's market, I would say that this number one thing is the most important, just making sure that like somewhere online it is posted what time the market is, and that if I, go home and search into Google, when you're typing your market name, what comes up, is it accurate and is it what we need to have come up? As a local foods coordinator, I was amazed by how many times I would hear like there was a market happening in the community, like in the county area that I covered, and I didn't know anything about it because there was no information about like what time it was or the time was wrong. And that's a really bad experience then for people who then do go to the market if it's not actually happening, and then they just think that it's not there, when in reality it could be that the date just moved from Tuesday to Wednesday. Yeah, you have a question?
Have you ever, I don't know if this is something that we could do, or have you ever been a part of a market situation where the farmer's market has their website, and then within that having links to those who do have either websites or do bios showing the face of the person so people know when they go to the market, that's who I want to look for. A picture of stuff that they have, almost like these little individual bios so people can click on, oh, bakery, and then you see a list of folks and just a few blurbs so they know what to look for, what they make, in general. Mm-hmm. That kind of a thing to help the because not everybody's going to have a website, not everybody's going to do Instagram or Facebook or keep it up to date.
Right.
And so helping the vendor connect with their people, mm-hmm. because people do check websites and going to whatever town farmers market, and they know who to look for or what to look for.
Yeah, okay, so the question is about just this kind of idea of like having a farmer's market kind of catch-all website where you have different sort of pictures and bios about your different producers that are selling. And I think that's a great idea. Like if you have the capacity to do that, I think it's awesome. And here's part of why I think it's awesome. keywords. So like, let's say that you have vendors that are very popular. They might actually be more popular than your market. If you have them listed and people are searching for those vendors, your market might be one of the things that pops up if you have them listed on your own website. And then like you're saying, for those producers who don't have a website and like maybe they never will, it's a way to communicate like, hey, we have these other people here too.
It's like cross-marketing.
Exactly. And I think that like cross-marketing for farmers market managers is like, that's how you're going to get the most bang out of your buck. And so this is the other thing, is just understanding keywords. So sometimes farmers markets are called things that are not actually like the name of the town or whatever. So you want to search for different kinds of things that people might search for to find your market. So if I don't know, I think I saw something that was like Winnesheet County Farmers Market. Well, I would not ever search for that. I would search for Farmers Market Decorah. And so you want to make sure that like you're also using that language on your website or on your Facebook page, because you want people to be able to find you with the search terms that they're most likely to use. So here's some just different examples, kind of what I was talking about. So this is when I typed in Iowa Food Cooperative. You see the first thing that comes up is the website. The second thing that comes up is the Facebook page. And the third thing that comes up is a Des Moines Register article about the business. You got your address, these hours, which are like actually not really accurate. So that would be something that like maybe we would want to try to figure out how to change. You can communicate with Google, but it can be challenging and like a really lengthy process. So that's just something to be aware of when you're doing search engine marketing. But the thing that I want everyone to kind of come away from this with is this idea that I need to have somewhere online the name of my market, what time it is, where it's happening, and I want to be checking on Google search to see like how my market's appearing when people are looking for it. All right, here's another example of a search engine, vegetable farm near Des Moines. So like this is something that you have to put yourself in the mind of your audience. What do they know? Do they necessarily know I want to buy from Clarion Sage Farm in Waukee? No, they don't know what Clarion Sage Farm is, but they know they want to buy vegetables near Des Moines. So that's like kind of the thought process you want to be going through when you're thinking about keyword searches. And what kinds of language you want to be having on your website. And so you can see when I put that in, Iowa Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association is the first thing that comes up. Probably be because they have vegetable farm Des Moines like in a million places on their website. So an actual vegetable farm in Des Moines, this is the fourth one that comes up. And they're actually not, they're like kind of still a farm, but not in the same way necessarily anymore. And this is a little bit older of a search engine example, but just kind of gives you the idea, these are the kind of search terms that people might look for. These are the kinds of different things that might pop up. And like, obviously we want to be as close to the top of the list as possible. And it also comes back to this idea of authenticity. So Google is really just looking to make sure that what people are searching for, like you're actually fulfilling the need. So as people do find your website and are clicking on it more, that's also going to help you move up higher in the Google search terms. Collecting content. So this kind of goes back to working with your producers that are selling at your market. So it could be that you're going to set up photo shoots and you're going to go out and take some pictures of your different producers. You might have some producers that are really good at taking pictures on Instagram, and you can ask them like, hey, can we use this picture to highlight your booth at the market? Another thing that you can do is utilize your customers to collect content. And this is a really good way to like get younger people involved too. So you could have a promotion where you might have like a sign, or you tell all of your producers that are selling at the market that we are going to use like this hashtag on Instagram, or we're going to ask people to send us things on Facebook or whatever, and you could have a competition. Maybe people can win like a gift certificate or something to the market that they could use with any of the producers, and all you're basically wanting to get out of them is their pictures. And this is like a really easy way to, when I worked at the Iowa Food Cooperative, what I would do was ask our consumers to send us pictures of like what they were doing with the products that they were cooking. And so this is like something that I'm doing, you know, like I'm taking pictures of what I'm cooking, but like some of these pictures were pictures that other people had sent to me of like things, they got strawberries, and so they were like, oh my gosh, finally strawberries. Like, people love taking pictures at farmers markets, and so we can totally capitalize on this idea and ask them. And people feel like nice. Usually, very rarely have I ever asked anybody if I could use their picture and they told me no. People feel like good about it if they think that they feel like they produce something of quality if you want to use it. And it could be like a pretty mediocre picture, but like it's still going to be better than like maybe what you're going to come up with on your own, because you're doing 1 million things, maybe selling at the market yourself. So you can't be everywhere. So use those customers and your producers to your advantage. This is about creating content, which is like also is probably not going to be as applicable for managing a farmer's market, except for maybe with something like an infographic. But this also goes back to the idea of audience. So you have to think about like, what does my audience want to know from me as the farmer's market? So one of the things might be a graphic that just says like, these are some of the things that are in season in the month of May. And that can be something that's very basic. I'll talk about a program that you can use to make these, but like even making something in Microsoft Word and exporting it as an image or something like that. It can be very basic, but like communicating information that your audience actually wants to hear from you, rather than maybe what we think is the most important thing to tell them. Sometimes there's like ways to get at people in like a less direct way that then will eventually lead them in the direction you want to go. And this is also a way to get your consumers to give you more information too. So in addition to pictures, you could ask people for like stories. What's like a fond memory from the farmer's market at the end of the summer, or something you might ask people, or you might have a box where people are like interacting and putting things in the box, and then you're sharing that out on social media. So you can think about like, how can I get things from people in person that then I can use to create content that will be interesting to similar people online. All right, so this is a question that comes up a lot. This is like kind of for farm businesses, but I think it's applicable for farmers markets too. Do I have to have a website, or can I just have a Facebook page? And this is what I'm gonna say about this. Facebook is probably not going away, but it's going to become more and more and more challenging to communicate to people what we want them to know using solely Facebook. And when you own your website, you like own more of that content. You're depending on what website provider you're using, they're not gonna like take your stuff down necessarily. Whereas like on Facebook, they change their community guidelines all of the time. I've had friends get things taken down that were like deemed offensive, even though they totally weren't. We had like a situation at WFAN where our ad wouldn't go through because we used the word widow in the language, and then they basically just blocked it because they said that was like offensive when we were like actually trying to communicate to widows. Yeah, I guess it makes people sad to see the word on Facebook maybe, but so you might not actually have the capacity to have a website for your actual market. So in that case, what I would say is I would really try to find like a regional or municipal website where you could have some information in addition to just having it on Facebook if you're trying to use online marketing. All right, another thing to know about with Facebook is that less than 10% of your followers will actually see your posts. And if you're starting a page from scratch, it will be even more challenging. They're making it even harder all of the time because they want you to pay for advertising. Which I would actually recommend for markets. You can do very minimal cost advertising and it can make a big difference. So there's kind of there's actually lots of different ways that you can create ads on Facebook right now, but one of the concepts that's important to understand is that you can pay per impression, which means that somebody saw your ad, which could mean they're just like scrolling through their news feed and it popped up. Or pay per click, which will be more expensive, but then you're only paying when somebody's actually interacting with the ad that you created. So pay per impression, somebody saw my ad. Pay per click, somebody actually interacted with my ad. Often people will do pay per impression because it's like, oh, well, it's 39 cents for every person that sees my ad, and like a ton of people saw it. But if we actually want somebody to go to our website, pay-per-click is probably a better approach to take. Kind of depends on if you're just doing an awareness campaign, pay-per-impression might be totally fine. But other way to kind of get around, or maybe in addition to paid advertising on Facebook, is to create shareable content. So this is where knowing your audience is really important, like knowing what kinds of things they're looking for at the market, what kinds of images, maybe where they're coming from, and like what are like the brand colors of the market that they're coming from, and like what might catch their eye. Asking questions. Facebook is always trying to get people to share content and to comment on content. So if you're going to run a Facebook page, you really want to be trying to like get people to interact with your content. It's really not enough to just have it be something that someone's going to come and like, because the more people that like share a post or comment on the post, the way that Facebook's algorithms work, the higher that post is going to go up in the newsfeed. So what I do at WFAN is I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of just like an image with a question about a problem that women in our network might have. For a farmer's market, you might ask like at the beginning of May, what are you most excited to get at the market later this month? And then you might have some people, and this is something else I'll do, is I'll actually reach out to people that I know and ask them to go and comment on the post. So like you could do that as a market manager. You could like reach out to people in your community and say, hey, I just posted this. Do you mind going and like leaving a quick comment? And just making it like fun and interactive for people so that they actually want to do it. But as people start commenting, that post is going to get more momentum behind it, and more people are going to see it. And a share is like gold. Once you start seeing people share stuff, you're going to get like at least 300 people to see it. I'm kind of kidding, but yeah, sharing is, I always feel really good when I see a share. So one thing I want to talk about is targeted advertising. This is different. So on a Facebook page, you'll see options to do a boosted post, and that's kind of what we're talking about with like pay-per-click, pay-per-impression. That concept still applies here, but what's different about targeted advertising and the way that you do it through, it's like a whole separate page, so it's kind of confusing. If you're on your Facebook page, you'll see a little blue button that'll say boost post. That's not what I would do. What I would do is actually go onto my Facebook profile, and all the way down on the left-hand side of the page, you'll see something that says Ads Manager. You click on that, and there's like, if you type in Facebook Ads Manager into Google, you will find lots of guides about how this works. And I can send links to Jason. But you can create custom audiences using target audience keywords. So you might pick locations that people live in, locations that people are going to be traveling to your community from. You can pick the location that they live in. You can say, I want people who specifically have indicated that they like the page of the farmer's market in their local community, and you can actually tag that page when you're doing the targeted advertising. You can say that you want to choose people specifically who maybe read like health magazines, or maybe they're interested in gardening themselves, or they're interested in cooking. So you maybe are going to pick like 15 different things that you think that people who go to farmers markets are interested in. Another thing that you can do is upload a spreadsheet of a contact list. So if you've been doing a farmer's market for a while and you have been collecting email addresses, you can create a custom audience and you can upload that to Facebook, and you can target, they will match the email address with their profiles. I know this is very creepy, and they will target specifically that list. It's a more expensive way to do advertising, but if you are really going after a very specific audience and like you know these people have been to the market before, that might be a really good idea, especially at the beginning of the farmers market season, and then like right before that big boom happens, kind of in the middle of the summer. You can also do this to do ads. You can do this through Facebook to create ads for Instagram, and you don't have to actually have an Instagram account to be able to create an ad. So you can do the ad buys right through Facebook. Facebook owns Instagram. Yes, so Ads Manager, that's what I would do if you want. I would not do boosted posts. I would do Ads Manager if you want to look into the advertising. So this is why creating an email list is really important, because this is going to really become the way that we're going to use advertising on Facebook in the future. So if you're not collecting those email addresses now, you're kind of like shooting yourself in the foot for later. For email newsletters is a great way to communicate with their customers. And one thing I want to let everybody know, people really get hung up on the open rate. But people don't necessarily have to open the email for you to be communicating with them. Just them seeing the name of your farmer's market in their inbox might be enough of a prompt for them to remember, oh, this farmer's market is in season right now, without them even opening the email. So it's worth it. It's worth the time to write a quick little email, have a picture of like some tasty food at the top of it that makes people want to come. For the people who do open the inbox, but even just that like effective subject line can be a really good way to communicate with people, like, hey, farmers market's happening right now. And like information in the title too, like farmers market starts this day. That's going to be enough for me as somebody who goes to a farmers market to like go to my calendar and say, Google Calendar, farmers market starting this day, we're going to go. If you do want to do an email newsletter, I would highly suggest MailChimp. And yeah, like I said, collect email addresses even if you're not planning on sending anything right now. With the open rates, you can do A/B testing, so you could test different subject lines to see what's most effective. But if you don't want to get down that rabbit hole because you've got like 1 million things going on, just the idea of collect email addresses, send email addresses to let people, just reminding them that the market's happening. And then one of the other statistics that you can look at is click-through rates. So if you're actually actively wanting to send people to your website, you're obviously going to want to look after you send the email, like how many people clicked on the links that were in that email. All right, Instagram for food is it. People love taking pictures of food. They love taking pictures of farmers markets. They love taking pictures of farmers. They love taking pictures of their kids eating watermelon and getting so sticky, and that's what we want. So I would say here as well. So Women Food and Agriculture Network, we have an Instagram. I don't like super actively post on it all of the time. My idea with it is that I want other people who are in our network to be using our hashtag, to be tagging us. It's a way for me to get them to advertise, and a very easy way for them. All they have to do is click on my name in the description that somebody else might have posted, and then that takes them to my Instagram profile where there's a link to my website, and that's what I want them to click on. If you're interested in starting Instagram and you're kind of trying to like get oriented to it, RightTag is a website that you can use where you can look up different hashtags and see like how many people are posting with that hashtag, and what kinds of things they're posting. Yeah, like when somebody most recently used it. And so the key with hashtags, and what a hashtag is basically you click on the hashtag and it takes people to a page that shows all of the different posts, not just your own, that have that hashtag linked to their post. So for a farmer's market, you can see I use Downtown Farmers Market as the hashtag that the Des Moines Farmers Market uses. And you can click on Downtown Farmers Market and you will see lots of pictures come up. That's all just different people. So that's marketing and advertising that the farmers market is not actively doing themselves. Their customers are doing that work for them. And so creating a hashtag and just like letting people know that it exists is often a very easy way to like start collecting that content, even if you're not sure you're going to use it right now. It's just a way to like build a page where you can go and look at it later and people are talking about it. And the other thing is just that the right level of specificity is key. So Des Moines, Iowa, heirloom tomato, not tomato, hashtag tomato, like billions of posts about hashtag tomato. Heirloom tomato is gonna like bring it down a little bit more. You also wanna think about like other businesses. So like maybe the community that you're working in has a hashtag, or maybe people use hashtag Decorah, Iowa, or hashtag Viroqua, or whatever it is that you're thinking about. Hashtag driftless, I don't know what they all are over here, but you kind of want to do some research. What are the hashtags that people in my community are using? if you can find out kind of who the people who are really actively using Instagram in your community are, it's often going to be like some downtown businesses, Main Street businesses, see what they're using, and then just like make a list for yourself so that then if you are going to use Instagram, you just have that list that you can use, and you can kind of see what the most effective thing is. So creating something that's specific to your market, and then using hashtags that already exist that like you can use to communicate about what you're doing is important. And then if you are actively going to want to curate your own Instagram profile, one thing that you can think about is like how it appears when people first look at your profile page. So like this is what people are going to see is, you know, the name, your little description, and then like your first 6 pictures. And this is an example that I shared just because I was talking about the circles earlier, and you can see when you look at these different pictures that there's like a circle here. These are kind of a circle, 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 like mini circles. And so that was something that I kind of did to like create some consistency. But you don't have to get like that into it. I would just, with this, basically be thinking about, it's not only the individual post, the first thing that people are often going to interact with is your whole profile. So what are they seeing? And if you're first starting a profile and maybe you're not like planning on maintaining it really actively, you might just want to like make a profile and post 10 things so that there's something like consistently there for people to see. And then have the hashtag in your description so that people know that that's what you want them to use. So text message alerts, there's actually a free version of this, a free version of doing mobile text alerts. And I think that there's probably like lots of other ways to do this. Oh, Remind, I think, is the one that's free. And it's meant for schools, I'm pretty sure. Mobile text alerts is something I've used in the past. It's $35 a month based on the number of people you have subscribing. And then Farm Fan is one that's more specific to like farms. But text message alerts is a really great thing, actually. When I worked at the Iowa Food Cooperative, we implemented these, and they were a really good way to just remind people that like, hey, it's time to come pick up your food. Hey, it's time to come put your order in. You can just have a quick text that says farmers market tomorrow 5:30 to 7:30. We have sweet corn, period. And like people will come out for that. So this kind of also goes back to like collecting your emails, collecting phone numbers. If there's like ways that you can actively get that done, it could be a sign somewhere at the market. Maybe you have like a farmers market specific booth where you have a sign that says like get updates from the market or something like that. Maybe you have somebody in front of the booth that's like actively trying to get people to sign up, like, hey, and this is a good thing to do at the end of the year too. Hey, did you want to come to the farmers market next year? Do you want to get updates so that you know when the farmers market is starting? And you can encourage people to do it by offering some kind of incentive too. But text, like everybody, we've all got our phone. We've got phones out on the tables right now. I've got my phone here. We're always looking at our texts. So Facebook is going to be harder and harder to communicate with people. Email, we might not get people to open the email, but if we can at least get them to see it. But text is like, you're going to get people where they're at because they're on their phone.
But you need the phone number.
Yeah, you need the phone number.
Yeah, like if you have contacts, let's say via Facebook or
I'm not sure. You might be able to do that, collect the names via like a Facebook page. Yeah, but I've never done it before with phone numbers. But if you Google search it, I bet you'll find some stuff that will come up. There's probably quick and dirty ways to do it. But yeah, just that idea of collecting information from people as much as we can. And then these are just some tools that I like to use. So Buffer is one that you can use to schedule content like on Facebook. I think you can do it on Instagram now too, Twitter. Another one is called TweetDeck. I use tinyurl to make short trackable links. So let's say that I want to start an email list, but MailChimp kind of just seems like too much for me. And I have maybe 200 emails and not 1,000 emails. you can use tiny URL to create a short link, and then you can go back later to see how many people actually clicked on that link from the Google Gmail email that you sent out. Small Farm Central has a post that's called 47 Tips and Tricks for CSA Marketing. Lots of stuff will be applicable for farmers markets as well. Pixabay and Pexels do free, no attribution required images, and I have used them to get pictures of vegetables like so many times, I can't even tell you. Are they the best pictures ever? No, obviously, like getting pictures of like real heirloom tomatoes and like real vegetables from Iowa is going to be better than what they have. But if you're like in a pinch, it's totally acceptable to go and get something from that. And yeah, basically just open for questions if people have things that they want to hear about the more traditional marketing or online marketing. And then if people want to email and follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I will say people do send me questions about this sometimes afterward. This is like kind of a side, not my top priority thing, but I will try to respond to your emails as soon as I can if you want to email me with questions too.
What platform, you know, like you mentioned, people are starting to go more and more away from Facebook. And Snapchat's hard because it disappears. So what is sort of the trending platform that the younger population is sort of relying on? You always hear the comment like, well, only grandma uses Facebook. You know, do you see a trend moving in a different direction?
Instagram is definitely, for reaching like a younger audience, is unbeatable. We're moving in like our culture is moving more and more towards images. And so people like to share the pictures, they like to use their hashtags, and then you talk about Snapchat. So Snapchat, it disappears. On Instagram, you can also create stories, and you can do this on Facebook now too, but I see people doing it a lot more on Instagram. So you can create a story where it shows up on the top of your Instagram profile, all these little circles that have the different people that you're following. You can click on their story, and if you look at mine, it'll be like lots of pictures of me drinking coffee and of my dog and like what my horoscope is that day. And, you know, if it's for a farmer's market, you might not be posting on your actual profile all the time, but you might be out at the market just like walking around, you know, doing video. Hey, I'm gonna go see Hannah at Humble Hands and like do a little video with her. Hey Hannah, like what's up? And that's the other thing I didn't talk about here. Video is like so important. And I would really capitalize on that for farmers markets. It's so easy to just like walk up to a producer, and not everyone's gonna want to do it, although it's in their best interest to. Not everyone wants to be on camera. And in that situation, you might say like, hey, maybe you don't want to be on camera, but can I just do like a sweep across your table, and then you can film me talking about what's at your stand or something like that too. But video is really good because it has a sense of urgency, and Facebook and Instagram both know that, and so they prioritize video over any other kind of post. So when you're actively in farmers market, or maybe you're getting ready to like, hey, let people know farmers market's getting started up, doing a live stream video or doing an Instagram story is awesome. And the other thing I'll say about Instagram stories, so with Snapchat, things disappear. And Snapchat, I would say, is like an even younger audience than probably what we're trying to target for going to a farmer's market. But for Instagram, you can actually create stories that you then save to your profile so they don't disappear. So you could do a story that's all just vegetable producers, and you could have that be one of the things on your profile. Like, these are the different vegetable producers, and here's a little like quick video about each of them. Or you could do, maybe you have some sort of like specific event or promotion that you're doing around the farmer's market, and maybe you just want to save that on your profile and have those like 10 images that you saved and have that be one of the first things that come up. But I would definitely say that like Instagram, I know, is a little bit more uncomfortable territory for a lot of people, because I think it's perceived as like, well, I'm not a great photographer, I don't have that kind of skill set, hashtags are confusing to me. But I do think that Instagram is going to be more and more the way that we're moving. And I would also really strongly consider doing like $100 ad on Instagram. You know, and we're not talking about like insane money here. A lot of the time it can be something really small, and you can do testing. Test an ad for $50, test an ad for $25, see how much interaction you get with it. And if you're not getting a lot, maybe it's like, why wasn't this effective and how can I make it more effective? So one of the things about digital marketing that's a little bit different from traditional marketing, we're putting money out, we're gonna get signs, we're gonna have these signs for a long time. Those signs are not gonna be going away anytime soon. With online marketing, we get a little bit more opportunity to test things out. So like, okay, I'm gonna put a little bit of energy into Instagram, I'm gonna make a profile, I'm gonna post some posts, I'm gonna do a hashtag, and I'm just kind of gonna test it out for a while and see how it goes. You're not putting a lot of like time, effort, and money into it necessarily, and maybe it really starts taking off and you're like, wow, I'm getting a lot more traction on Instagram than I am on Facebook. I'm gonna start putting more energy into that. Another thing to think about is like, you don't really ever want to make something once. Like you want to make something and use it once. You want to make something that like you can use over and over and over again. So, and the slide for the program I was talking about isn't in here, but there's this program called canva.com, C-A-N-V-A. Yeah. Yeah, canva.com. It's pretty easy to figure out. It's just like a drag and drop design tool. I use this in professional marketing. You can do a paid version of it where you can like upload your own pictures, your own content. The paid version is actually really reasonable. It's like $12 a month or like $120 for the whole year, which in the grand scheme of things is not that much. But you can use the free version of it too and still get to like make some templates. So make a template that's like, and they have them pre-made for you. So you can go in and say, I want to make a Facebook post. You click on that, it pops it up with the exact proportions of like what that should be. You can go through and like drag your images, drag your text, and put that all on there. Then all you have to do next week when it's not, I apparently am craving sweet corn. Okay, so let's say this week it's sweet corn. Next week what I want to promote is like cinnamon bagels. That sounds good, right? So all I have to do now is find the picture for cinnamon bagels, plop it in where I had my sweet corn, change the text out, export that, and I just saved myself 30 minutes. So, you know, it's summer, we're busy. I know a lot of people who are managing farmers markets or producers themselves don't have a lot of time. So anything that we can do to try to like make it just fast. And so this can be a good time, and especially obviously in the winter is a great time to be making templates that we're going to use all through the year. But yeah.
You can use other people's templates. Like you can scroll through and say, I really like that picture. Just go in, change the text, change the font.
Yep.
And then you're done.
Yep, definitely.
And
Yeah.
you can save it. It'll save it under your little portfolio. So you'll just have it.
Yep. Yeah, using those templates. The one thing to be aware of if you're using the free version of Canva is that there will be like a little dollar sign or something like that at the top of things that you have to pay it for. I think like everything is $1, so it's not like it's so much, but let's say that I am advertising tomatoes and I don't have a picture of tomatoes. I might go to Pixabay or Pexels to find a free image that I can use of tomatoes and then just upload that into Canva rather than using an image from Canva, which I might have to pay $1 for. Just like save ourselves $1. Why not? But yeah, Canva is an awesome tool. It's pretty user friendly, and yeah, you can create a profile and you can save it, and those templates just really help a lot. And then you can duplicate, so you can make something that's specific to Facebook, and then you can copy it into something that's like an Instagram post, and then you just resize it, and so you're not making everything over and over and over again. So you always want to be thinking about, I want to make this one time so that I can use it 10 or 15 times.
Or print out posters or
signage. Yep, I made a poster in Canva last night. Signs, yeah, all of that stuff. Facebook, like if you do have a Facebook page, I think one of the most neglected areas is the cover photo of your Facebook page. And so like creating a really nice visual for your cover photo. You can do that in Canva really easily. And it just like elevates the look of your Facebook page. And and you're just like brand in general. It just makes you look more professional. And I think that's something that like often a smaller market is going to have a hard time competing with, especially if you have people coming from larger urban areas, or maybe the farmer's market has a staff of like 7 people or something like that, and they're doing all of that work, or like they have some relationship with the municipality, and so they have staff that's like making all of that stuff. So that's just an easy way for you to just make it look a little bit more professional, and make people a little bit more likely to say, hey, I want to check that out. But you can still keep it kind of kitschy and small town when you do that too, without losing, you know, the brand and voice of your community. Cool.
Awesome. Well, we're going to open it up for questions for in-person and online. And if you want to write it in the text box, Jason is here and he's going to read them off in the back. So anybody has any questions?
Josh, I was wondering if you had any like data or anything that you collected after signage stuff that you've done, and if it's made like what kind of impact it's made.
We have some. Unfortunately, the month we put up, like the billboard, was like one of the rainiest months. So you're like, oh, like weather. We found out weather is the most important factor for farmers markets. So we do have some data, and I'd be happy to share any data.
Awesome.
Okay, well, I guess we answered everybody's questions. Great. We greatly appreciate everybody joining us today in person and online. Thank you very much. And
I want to say, yeah, just a couple things. So this is recorded for you here that are in, those of you that are here in person, but then also online, if you ever want to go back and look at something that was said that you maybe missed or wanted to go back over, we're going to have this uploaded sometime in the near future. Not sure when, but sometime it'll be online that you can access it there. I also wanted to say that we do have another training lined up on April 18th. I think it's a Wednesday, from 1:30 to 3:30 in Clear Lake at the North Iowa Landfill Education Center. And it's going to be covering record keeping. And that will be in partnership with the Healthy Harvest of North Iowa. So yeah, we'll be there. And then again, thank Luther for housing us, giving us space to use. Thank Ash and Josh for their time and coming to talk about their expertise in marketing. And for those of you listening online and obviously in person as well, we're always looking to connect with market managers and make sure that we're doing the best that we can to be providing you with resources that are useful. So feel free to connect with us. Email, phone, we're easily Googleable. I don't think we have an Instagram, but maybe we'll do it. All right, thank you very much.